Dr. Stephanie Kelton is with us, economist and chair of the Department of Economics at the University of Missouri in Kansas City and editor-in-chief of the New Economic Perspectives blog, neweconomicperspectives.org. Dr. Kelton, welcome to our program.
Thank you. It's great to join you.
It is great to have you with us. I've watched enough video clips of you that I feel like I know you. First of all, can you give us a snapshot, your summary of what modern monetary theory means?
Well, I guess the easiest way to say it is to say that it's the way of doing economics that brings us into the 21st century, that recognizes the simple fact that we're not on a gold standard anymore. And so much of the way that we teach economics today, and not just in the US, but all around the world, is based on these outmoded ideas that are no longer relevant in the modern era. And so what modern money theory does is really recognize that the system works very differently today by virtue of the fact that the monetary system changed in a really important way in 1971. And that is the year in which we broke from gold. And so we have this monetary system today that is based on a pure, we say, fiat money. And it just doesn't work the way it used to work under the old system. But we act like we're still hamstrung by the same sorts of constraints that were present under the old system that are gone. And we aren't taking advantage of a whole range of policy options that we can adopt now that weren't really available to us before.
Okay, so under the old system, before Nixon closed the gold window in 71, we were basically constrained in the number of dollars that we could produce by the amount of gold we had. Is that an accurate statement as point one?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, you had to be very careful when running your fiscal and monetary policy, because what you were pledging to do was to convert the currency into gold, which is, of course, a limited, finite resource. And so you had to be very careful about how many dollars you actually created and had in circulation, because if you had too many people all at the same time deciding, I don't want to hold the dollar, I want to convert into gold, then you could run into real problems in terms of keeping that monetary system.
So how do you respond to somebody who says in 1971, if you paid $15,000 or $20,000 for a house, that house right now would sell for $200,000 or $300,000, and in fact, in 2007, probably would have sold for $400,000. Isn't that evidence that we should have stayed on the gold standard? I mean, that's basically the kind of Ron Paul response.
Right. So, well, I would say to them, we had 8 depressions while we were on the gold standard, and we've had 0 since we've gone off the gold standard. So the gold standard is one of these monetary systems that works until you need it most, and then it doesn't work, which is why every country in the world abandons gold when you have an economic crisis like the one that we had in 2007. If we had been on a gold standard then, we would have been forced off the gold standard.
But haven't we seen the value of our currency collapse?
Well, no, we sure haven't. But this is something that lots of people were ringing the alarm bells about, right? I mean, when the Fed began intervening in these unprecedented ways with quantitative easing and so forth, a lot of the gold bugs started running around and saying, this is the end of the world. The dollar is going to become worthless. It's going to collapse. We're going to end up like Weimar Germany or Zimbabwe. The dollar won't be worth the paper it's printed on and so forth. And of course, none of that happened. I mean, these folks have been really, really wrong about things.
Although the price of gold has gone from, just 15 years ago, it was selling for around $230 an ounce, and it's like $1,600 an ounce now. Is that an indication of a change in the price of that particular commodity or in the value of the dollar?
Well, it's certainly an indication of a change in the price of the commodity, because that's why the price of gold is going up. You've got a lot of people who have this belief, that the currency is going to become worthless, and their fears and anxiety drive them to purchase commodities like gold. And so it drives up the price of gold. And we're seeing now, these corrections in terms of gold. And as market participants begin to understand that the dollar is actually not going to collapse, well, then gold becomes a less appealing investment.
So as a fiat currency, our dollar is no longer backed by gold. It is backed by the wealth and full faith and credit of the United States government. Do I have that right?
Sure. The dollar definitely has value. I mean, we all are willing to work and provide things in order to get the currency. And so it is intrinsically worthless in the sense that the currency itself, the bills and notes and so forth, don't have intrinsic value, but they have value nonetheless. And the reason that we're all willing to work and provide resources in order to get these is essentially because the dollar is a tax credit.
So, yeah, and we can get into that, and I understand that. But just to put a nail in the coffin of the story, that oh my God, since we went off the gold standard, everything's falling apart. How do you rebut that in the face of that in 1971? A good middle-class income was $12,000 a year, and today that's way below the poverty level. In 1971, you could buy a decent house for $30,000. In fact, a very nice house. And now that's, $400,000 or $500,000 for the exact same house. That in 1971, gold was 30 some odd dollars an ounce. Now it's $1,600. Pick your commodity. Gasoline in 71 was 30 cents a gallon. Now it's almost $4. Are there commodities that have not gone up in value that would show that what we're looking at is commodity inflation rather than dollar depreciation or devaluation? Or is dollar devaluation just a natural thing that would have happened with or without our going from a gold standard to a fiat currency?
Well, look, the dollar has gone up in value and down in value over time against a range of different currencies. One week it's up, one year it's down, another month it's back up, another week it's down. So the dollar fluctuates against world currencies, and a whole range of goods and services have become much cheaper. Quality has improved, a number of things that we could look at aside from just the price of gold. But look, a lot of things have happened since 1971 that have led to declining standards of living for Americans. Since 1973, the real wages of the average American worker in this country have been stagnant and more recently have been declining. And so, you've got the demise of unions, and you've got the fact that corporate profits have been increasing, productivity has gone up over time, and real wages have stagnated. And so Americans have turned more and more to debt to finance their standard of living over time. And so there's just a whole range of things that have taken place, the financialization of the economy and so forth, that contribute to the decline in worker standards of living over time.
So we should be looking at standard of living rather than what a dollar will buy. I'm on your side. I'm still not hearing an argument why the dollar is not depreciating, or why, if it is, it has nothing to do with gold standard or not gold standard.
Well, depreciating in terms of what? Depreciating against a basket of goods. So inflation is extraordinarily modest right now. The Fed can't even hit its very modest 2.5% inflation target. And so, I don't see the devaluation of the U.S. dollar that so many people sort of wring their hands about. I mean, we've actually had for now a very long period of time, going all the way back to the Clinton era, where we had rising productivity, we had declining unemployment rates, we had what on the surface appeared to be a really healthy economy, and we had inflation that was extraordinarily modest even back then.
We have to take a very quick break, just a few seconds. We'll be back. Dr. Stephanie Kelton is with us, an economist and the chair of the Department of Economics at the University of Missouri in Kansas City, editor-in-chief of the blog New Economic Perspectives, neweconomicperspectives.org. Modern monetary theory. Stick around.